Hello, Wenona Victor. First, would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, my name is Wenona Victor. I am a member of the Ts'elweyeqw community, one of several belonging to the Stalo Nation. I'm part of the Ts'elweyeqw tribe and the Homok people. I'm married to Ernie Victor from Chiem. We have 3 children. Jade is 13, Justice is 10, and Alexis Lyle Victor is 8. I have just recently completed my PhD degree from Simon Fraser University in Indigenous Governance and Self-Determination, and I am the Indigenous Studies faculty member at the University of the Fraser Valley.
Okay. And how do you view yourself as a role model?
I view myself as a role model probably mostly because of my education. I think when other Indigenous people see what I've been able to accomplish, obtaining a BA degree and an MA degree and a PhD, while still maintaining my Indigenous identity and my Indigenous worldview, I think I inspire other Indigenous peoples to then want to continue on in the education achievements as well. And I also think I'm a good role model just in terms of being a Indigenous woman and the way that I conduct myself, carry myself, and in being a mother. I think it's one of my greatest accomplishments in life is being a mom, and I think I do a pretty good job of that and feel I role model that for the community as well.
Okay. And what adversity have you faced?
Like most, if not all, Indigenous peoples, I have dealt with racism my whole life. I've overcome issues of poverty. I've overcome issues of intergenerational effects of residential school, of the foster care system. I've overcome the adversity of living on very remote Indian reserves throughout BC. And so, but all of those things, they are adversities, but they've also are what made me who I am today and have built the character that I feel I have a very strong character because of all those adversities that I have overcome and experienced in my life.
Okay. What are the differences between Aboriginal leadership and non-Aboriginal leadership?
I think there's many, not just in terms of how they conduct themselves and the way in which they lead. I think there's also a difference in where they put their focus. Indigenous leaders, I think, not all, but many, especially the ones that I admire, also have the additional challenge of leading in terms of the environment. So it's not just leading people, it's not just leading communities, but it's also having a look at what are the things that we're doing today? Are they sustainable? Are we being eco-friendly? Are we doing things to ensure that there's clean water, trees, fish, resources for future generations? And I think a lot of non-Indigenous leaders don't necessarily have to have that on their mind when they're leading. They can lead quite short-term, whereas our leaders have to have a long vision, looking 7 generations even in front of them in the ways that they conduct themselves and the decisions that they make. So yeah, and also the collectivity. Indigenous leaders belong to a collective. They're always accountable and always responsible to that collective and have to constantly report back, have to constantly making sure that they're consulting with the people they're leading on almost a daily basis sometimes.
Oh, okay. What are barriers a leader needs to overcome when leading Aboriginal communities?
Well, I think I think one of the biggest barriers are the location of the Indigenous communities. They've been placed on, most of the communities have been placed on a reserve where there's, there's not always the best access. There's not always roadways. Sometimes there's not even clean drinking water, and this is all through the colonial process that this has happened. So these types of barriers the Indigenous leader has to address within the community. Then on top of that, access to education, access to employment, and the list goes on and on. And unfortunately, the programs that are offered through, for example, the Department of Aboriginal Affairs are quite often programs that the community is not even asking for and aren't necessarily doing anything to address all those barriers that I just listed. So I really feel for Indigenous leaders leading in those conditions, and that's basically a lot of our communities are facing those harsh realities.
Okay. So how would you empower others?
I empower others by listening to them. I feel, as a leader myself, I feel like one of my best qualities as a leader is my listening abilities. I'm constantly listening and really listening and watching for the gifts and the talents and the skills of the person that I'm speaking with or that's talking with me, because I believe everybody has at least one gift and everybody is a leader in their own right, and finding and identifying that gift is, I think, a big part of how I empower people.
Okay. Now, back with the last question, kind of combined, what do you think that we can do to overcome some of these boundaries? And with empowering others, what would you say?
I would like to see the problem be identified by the Indigenous community members themselves. Let them identify what the barriers are, what the obstacles are, and then let them develop a plan as to what they would like to see happen, as opposed to the other way around. So quite often some of the communities are told from outside sources, this is what you need, this is what you're going to do. Economic development, I think, is a great example. Oh, if you just build a business, everything will be fine, when I really don't think that's the case. And you have to ask the people, do they even want that business in their community? Is that something that they're interested in doing? Or a social program, is this the social program that they want? Or they might identify something entirely different. So I'm just tired of outsiders constantly telling Indigenous peoples what we need and what's best for us. I think it has to be organic and it has to be internal. It has to come from the inside out. And I think all those barriers will dissolve.
Oh yeah, cool. How do you engage in cultural teachings while leading a modern lifestyle?
Well, it's sort of, it's who I am. Our cultural teachings aren't something like a hat that you put on, like that you can pick and choose when to wear it. Our cultural teachings, I believe, come with me wherever I go, whether I'm teaching in a classroom, whether I'm being interviewed, whether I'm sitting in a longhouse during Nichla season, whether I'm in a conference on the other side of the world. My cultural teachings come with me everywhere, and they guide my decisions, they guide the way I conduct myself. They are what I fall back on when I need redirection or feeling weak or feeling uncertain. I turn back to those teachings and those beliefs every single day of my life. They're who I am. You cannot separate them from me.
Okay. So you pretty much, you live your teachings and then you also share them with others as you live as well.
I feel like that's something, that I aspire to when I'm older. Definitely, like I envision myself as an elder one day and definitely sharing all of those, all the cultural teachings that I've learned in my lifetime. But right now I feel kind of like the learner. I'm learning. I'm going to people to ask about those teachings and those traditions and how I make sure to apply them in my life and on a daily basis. So right now I'm learning as well. But one day, yeah, for sure.
So you like to keep an open mind then?
Oh, always. One thing I think maybe even the education process has taught me that as well, is to not get attached to my opinions and ideas. To always have an open mind, to always be open to hearing all the different perspectives and coming up with a solution after you've listened and heard from everybody. But if you come in with a closed mind or something with a solution already, and blinders on, I don't think that's good leadership. I think that smothers creativity. Whereas keeping an open mind, always listening, even especially to people who think differently than I do, I think is key.
Oh wow, great. That's some great information, Dr. Wenona Victor. I'd like to thank you on behalf of myself and the Chinook scholars for your time today.
No problem. Thanks for asking me.